Listen, if you've been getting your money life together, then you've heard about an emergency fund. It's a financial safety net, a cushion, to help you weather unexpected expenses like car repairs, medical bills, or sudden job loss. But even if you've already started building an emergency fund, certain mistakes can leave you more vulnerable than you think. In this video, we'll dive into 6 common emergency fund pitfalls and, more importantly, how you can avoid them. Mistake number 1, not saving enough. One of the biggest mistakes people make is underestimating how much they'll actually need in their emergency fund. Now, a popular rule of thumb is to save $1,000 as a starting point, and while that's a good initial goal, it's far from sufficient for most emergencies. Think about this. A car repair or an unexpected home fix could cost you thousands, and $1,000 won't last long in those scenarios. Financial experts generally recommend saving 3 to 6 months worth of essential expenses. For example, if your monthly expenses, that's rent, groceries, insurance, utilities, and debt repayments, total $3,000, you should aim for $9,000 to $18,000. And if you're self-employed or work in a volatile industry, a 12-month cushion is typically suggested. That's $36,000. Let's be honest, those are huge numbers. We like to suggest saving up 1 month's worth of expenses. At the very least, you know you'll have 30 days to figure out the next move in the case of an unexpected event. So how do you ensure you're saving enough? The first thing you've got to do is calculate your essential monthly expenses to determine your emergency fund goal. These are only essential things. Those streaming services, that gym membership, it all goes on pause if you need to dip into your fund. Next, set smaller, incremental milestones. You'll set that 1-month goal, then try to save up $5,000. Then get 2-month goals down, then save $10,000. One of the best ways to do this is to automate savings to ensure consistent progress. Consistency is key to getting this right. Mistake number 2, keeping your fund too accessible or inaccessible. Where you keep your emergency fund matters. Some people keep it in their checking account where it's too easy to dip into for non-emergencies. Others make the opposite mistake, locking it away in investments or accounts with penalties for early withdrawal, making it difficult to access when needed. An emergency fund should be liquid but not tempting. A high-yield savings account is an excellent middle ground. You can get one that's separate from your everyday checking accounts, offers better interest rates than traditional savings accounts, and allows quick access when necessary. It would be even better if you got one from an online-only bank. That way, you'd need a couple of days to allow for funds to transfer, giving yourself yet another buffer before you try to use it for non-emergencies, like that sale that's happening at your favorite store. So your action item is to open a high-yield savings account specifically for your emergency fund with a different bank than your everyday checking account, and avoid linking it to a debit card to reduce the temptation to spend. Mistake number 3, confusing wants with emergencies. We talked about it briefly in the last point, but it's easy to justify dipping into your emergency fund for something that feels urgent but isn't truly an emergency. For example, replacing a perfectly functional phone, funding a vacation, or upgrading your home decor doesn't qualify as an emergency. True emergencies are unexpected and necessary expenses that significantly impact your life or financial stability. Examples include medical bills, car repairs that prevent you from commuting, or emergency home repairs like fixing a leaking roof. You must define what constitutes an emergency for your situation. Before using your emergency fund, take a step back and ask, is this expense unavoidable, unexpected, and urgent? If the answer is yes, then use it. For other things, consider establishing a separate savings account for planned expenses like vacations or home upgrades to avoid mixing funds. Mistake number 4, neglecting to replenish after use. An emergency fund is not always a set-it-and-forget-it financial tool. After you use it, you'll need to refill it as quickly as possible to ensure that you're prepared for the next unexpected expense. Unfortunately, many people fail to prioritize this, leaving themselves unprotected for months or even years. Refilling your emergency fund doesn't have to be overwhelming. Remember, small, consistent contributions will rebuild it over time. For example, reallocating $50 or $100 from each paycheck can make a big difference in just a few months. It might even mean that you have to pause your subscriptions, pick up a part-time gig, or freelance for a few months, but you must prioritize this fund. Here's how you do that. Treat replenishing your emergency fund as a non-negotiable budget item. It's now become a bill, and like any other bill, you have to pay it before you get to spend money on discretionary items. You can also make a plan to reroute a portion of any expected windfalls like tax refunds or bonuses toward your emergency fund. And hey, celebrate small wins to stay motivated during the replenishment process. It may take several months to get back to fully funded, so don't burn yourself out. Mistake number 5, relying only on credit instead of savings. Some people believe they don't need an emergency fund because they can rely on credit cards or personal loans during a crisis. While credit can be a helpful tool, it's not a substitute for savings. Using credit often means paying high interest rates, which can worsen your financial situation over time. For example, charging a $3,000 medical bill to a credit card with a 20% annual interest rate could cost you an additional $600 of interest within a year if you don't pay it off quickly. This turns an already stressful situation into a prolonged financial burden. Additionally, lenders may reduce your credit limit or deny new credit, potentially leaving you without options when you need them most. Another issue with relying solely on credit is the psychological toll it can take. Debt often brings anxiety, and knowing you owe money after an emergency can add unnecessary stress during an already challenging time. Having a fully funded emergency fund not only protects you financially, but also protects peace of mind, allowing you to focus on resolving the crisis without worrying about long-term debt. This fix requires a mindset shift. Credit should be seen as an absolute last resort, not a first line of defense. Building a robust emergency fund so you can cover unexpected expenses without relying on credit can provide the ease of mind you need during stressful times. If you're currently relying on credit, make a plan to transition towards savings by allocating a portion of your budget toward paying off debt and building your fund simultaneously. You can use budgeting tools or apps to track your savings progress and stay motivated. Mistake number 6, forgetting to factor in irregular expenses. An often overlooked mistake is failing to account for irregular but predictable expenses, such as annual insurance premiums, car maintenance, or annual life insurance premiums. These expenses aren't true emergencies because they're foreseeable and recurring, yet many people treat them as such when they arise unexpectedly. This oversight can lead to tapping into your emergency fund unnecessarily, reducing its balance for when genuine crises occur. Irregular expenses often feel overwhelming because they aren't part of your monthly budgeting routine. For example, an annual car insurance premium might be $1,200, but if you haven't set aside $100 per month to cover it, the bill can come as an unwelcome surprise. Even things like skipping regular car or home maintenance can lead to larger, more costly repairs down the line, further exacerbating financial strain. By failing to separate these predictable costs from true emergencies, you risk depleting your emergency fund prematurely and being unprepared for actual emergencies. Having a plan for these irregular expenses ensures that your emergency fund remains untouched, providing a more accurate financial safety net. Create a separate savings for irregular expenses, then calculate how much it would cost per month for your irregular expense and put that amount into the savings account. Here's how you do it. Review your past year's expenses to identify and categorize these predictable costs. These might include your yearly holiday gifts budget, annual subscription renewals, or major appliance replacement. Break these expenses into monthly contributions and set up automated transfers into your savings account to spread the cost out over time. If your life insurance premium is $2,400 annually, transfer $200 monthly into your account. Periodically review and update allocations to reflect any changes in recurring costs or new anticipated expenses. By taking these proactive steps, you'll avoid the stress of scrambling for funds when predictable expenses arise. This approach not only preserves your emergency fund, but also provides greater control and peace of mind over your entire financial situation. An emergency fund is one of the most important tools for achieving financial stability, but it's only effective if you avoid these common mistakes. Start by auditing your current emergency fund. Do you even have one? Do you have enough saved? Is it accessible but not too tempting? Are you replenishing it after use? Taking these steps today will set you up for a more secure tomorrow. Don't let these emergency fund mistakes derail your progress. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. And we'll see you in the next one.